Hi, my name's Juliana, and I did my assignment based around the state of South Carolina. I currently live between Maine and South Carolina, but I plan to practice in Charleston, South Carolina, once I hopefully achieve my license and finish the program. So I found a firm called Dogwood Counseling, and I really liked their sheet, their form, because it was very plain and simple. It was thorough, but it also explained things in layman's terms that anyone can really understand. And I say that because, sometimes, not just in the counseling field, but really anytime you go somewhere and you have to sign a form, some sort of legal document, a lot of times I find that it's very conflated language, and sometimes the professional or the administrative assistant or whoever will, hand you the form and be like, oh, it just means blah, 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 sign it. And I don't like that, especially when you're entering a counseling situation. You need to fully know what you're getting into. And on top of that, I found a scholarly article that sort of mentions this idea. It's from 2018 from Kelly Blease and Trashel, and I believe that's how you pronounce it. And it's called Informed Consent in Psychotherapy, Implications of Evidence-Based Practice. And they talked about how informed consent needs to be well understood by the client, and it needs to be something that can be easily understood by the client, even if they have no prior knowledge of counseling. So when I compared Dogwood Counseling's informed consent to the ACA and then to the South Carolina Board's guidelines, I didn't find any really red flags because it was a pretty exhaustive form. The only thing that I found a little odd is that it's my understanding that informed consent, includes confidentiality and, payment information, that you can't have an inappropriate counselor-client relationship. All that information was on this form, but there's only one heading at the bottom that says informed consent. So I don't know why all of that isn't considered just under the large heading of informed consent, but I'll read what the small heading of informed consent says on the form. Therapy can be a challenging process and may not be the only solution to the outcomes that you want addressed. There are alternatives and other professionals able to assist you. Therapy sometimes makes behaviors and emotions more intense before they get better. Therapy is not always successful and may open unexpected, emotionally sensitive areas, which I do think that's, certainly good to include. And when I refer to the ACA Code of Ethics, there's a very specific section where it talks about informed consent and confidentiality, and it says counselors protect the confidential information of prospective and current clients. Counselors disclose information only with appropriate consent or with sound legal or ethical justification. And on this Dogwood Counseling's form, they talk about confidentiality and that, obviously things remain confidential until the client poses a danger to themselves or to someone else. But it also talks about how if the counselor seeks advice about the client, that the client's identity will remain private. And I guess this is ethical based on the Code of Ethics, and I know we've talked about it based on textbook readings that I've had in this program, that, that's part of the profession. Sometimes you have to ask someone's advice, but, I don't know if technically, I don't see a problem with it, but technically, ethically, should you have that client's consent? Like if you want to say, hey, I'd like to seek another opinion about this, is that okay with you? Or is that just all encompassed when they sign this form? And then on the South Carolina Board's form of rules and regulations in their section about informed consent, they speak more specifically about addiction counselors and counseling electronically, which I thought it was weird that they were that specific and not a little more general. But it does say that there needs to be a written agreement between the client and the counselor, which the Dogwood Counseling firm in South Carolina certainly meets. So enjoyed this assignment. I'm enjoying the course, and I look forward to more.